Love Beyond Butterflies by Junwo Ayo. You know, people talk about love like it's all fireworks and grand gestures, like it lives in the glow of good days and easy smiles. But real love, it doesn't always shine. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's the only thing holding up the roof when the storms rage. I used to think love was just a feeling, butterflies and whispered words under the stars, but I've learned love is grit. Love is standing firm when the ground crumbles. It's holding on even when your hands are shaking. Real love isn't afraid of trouble. It sits with you in it. It doesn't promise easy answers, but it refuses to walk away. Growing up, Daddy wasn't always home. Sometimes he was, but mostly he wasn't. I have glimpses, fading memories, like fragments that flash in my mind when I least expect it. Like me and him wrestling in the living room or sharing a can of juice, just the two of us. That was a thing back in the 90s, fathers and their kids sharing drinks. I remember his scent. It was warm, familiar, and even now, after all these years, I crave it. But for like 2 decades now, he's felt like a stranger, someone who just visits mom occasionally, like some passing guest. You'd think time would make it easier to adjust to, but it doesn't. Well, it's better not to go into the details, but I have to say this one thing. There were days he would call me names that hurt my soul more than they should have. And his jokes, he loved to joke that I was the man of the house. But what do you do when the man of the house struggles with his masculinity being questioned? I keep telling people that staying together under the same roof, breaking the same bread, and picking up the same habits is what really makes a family. But the question is, how do you get along with somebody who is always absent, who is never there? Then one day the call came. He was almost gone, and I ran like mad. When I saw him lying there, weak, almost lifeless, something in me broke, and in that moment I felt it. Butterflies, not from anger, but from something deeper, something pure. I carried him on my back, no dignity, no hesitation. Blood rushed through my veins and love poured out of me, raw, unguarded, unstoppable. I held his hand. Night after night, I sang, I prayed, I cried, and I wished for time. Every act, washing his hands, adjusting his pillow, whispering prayers over him, melted the hardness in my heart. Empathy began to open a window I'd kept bolted shut for a long time, and through it I began to see the world as he did. His quiet strength, his resilience in weakness. I saw him. I learned to love him in his frailty, to admire the man who had shaped me in ways I had never acknowledged. And when he smiled, oh, when he smiled, when life finally returned to his eyes, he earned something I never thought I would give: my trust, my love, and my respect. But the funny thing is, this story, it isn't about me and him, it's about him, God. I once kept him at arm's length, thought I could handle life on my own, but it was in my brokenness, my sickness, that he carried me on his back without hesitation. He held my hand, stayed by my side, and loved me when I was unlovable. I think of Jesus on the cross, his hands nailed, his side pierced, weak, vulnerable, and yet it was his strongest moment. He bore it all, my shame, my sins, my doubts. He didn't promise me butterflies, he didn't promise ease, but he promised he would never leave. Isaiah 53 verse 5 reminds us, "But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed." Love isn't a fleeting feeling, it's a covenant, a commitment. And in my darkest days, he loved me, and still he loves me. So now I know love isn't always loud, it isn't always bright, but it is always steadfast. And when everything else fades, it's the one thing that stays. To stay in touch, follow us on Instagram at FTS_network.ng. Again, at FTS_network.ng. And for partnerships, kindly send us a text message at +234 706 5648 230. One more time, +234 706 5648 230. Thank you for listening.